What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and tonight I have a special video for you guys where we're going to be talking about 10 reasons why Black Ops Cold War is indeed better than Call of Duty Vanguard. Now don't forget, this is of course dealing with launch content, not accounting for all the DLC updates, since that wouldn't really be fair, right? Black Ops Cold War has had 6 full seasons of updates, while Vanguard hasn't even had one yet time of posting this video. So I'll make a follow-up or a part 2 to this video in the next year after 6 full seasons have dropped for Vanguard. That's if they do, I'm sure they will, and I'll still be covering Vanguard this year. Don't forget, I figured out to make this video considering we still have another week and a half left or so of Cold War Season 6. Doesn't mean that because I choose Cold War in this video that I'm not going to cover Vanguard this year. I'm a Call of Duty creator, for crying out loud, so you guys know I'll be bringing you guys all the latest information regarding every new Call of Duty. Now, also keep in mind, you can respectfully disagree down below in the comments with some of my claims, and again, this is all just subjective, right? I'm not trying to make it out like this is objective, or that only I can decide what's good for the community, or that I know it all. It's not that whatsoever. So feel free to respectfully debate me down below in the comments, provide other reasons why you agree or disagree, but just don't forget, right? There's no need to be toxic about a Call of Duty release. There's just no need for that. So don't forget, be nice to everybody down below. Now, with that being said, starting off at number 10, this is a bit of a funny one, but I'm going to start off with the marketing, right? Leading up to the launch of both Vanguard and Black Ops Cold War, I want to say the marketing, trailers, hype, just the energy around the community itself, it seemed like despite any development struggles behind the scenes, Treyarch and Raven absolutely knew how to market the game. They knew how to present us with Black Ops Cold War and how they would ensure the game matches the vibe of the 80s to an absolute T. I don't know about you guys, but it certainly felt like Vanguard was off to a rough start even before the game was revealed, simply because early rumors about it being a World War II game didn't really excite many people out there in the COD community. And because the marketing was a bit strange to where Vanguard was marketed as a post-World War II game, despite what was presented to us kind of telling us otherwise, that kind of had people a little bit confused with what they should expect, and it's almost like people out there weren't really convinced it was a post-World War II game. And with that being said, every mission but 2 take place during the Second World War, which was also a bit strange. It's like, wait, the game was marketed to be after the death of Hitler, trying to prevent his successor from taking power, but only 2 missions actually cover that, whereas every other mission is a flashback. We'll get more into that later on in this video, but with Cold War, it definitely solidified itself right away as a Black Ops 1 sequel and made people interested in the mindfuckery story they teased us with throughout the marketing, and brought us some kick-ass music choices for the trailers to again set the tone for the game itself. But coming in at number 9, we do have the game itself, Cold War, standing on its own 2 feet. Although it's not on the Modern Warfare engine, you could definitely see how Cold War has its own identity and purposely feels like a different game, while a lot of people out there tend to refer to Vanguard as Modern Warfare DLC. I tend not to do that because it does stray away from some things Modern Warfare established, but you get what I mean, right? You know, Vanguard is on the same engine as Modern Warfare, so they're bound to feel similar, but you can tell in the short amount of time they had to make the game, they borrowed as much as possible from that game as well. There's clearly UI similarities and mechanics between Cold War and Warzone, but Treyarch absolutely put their own spin on things, right? If you theoretically skipped Cold War and your last COD was Modern Warfare 2019, I don't think you'd have a hard time adjusting to Vanguard at all because the games are relatively similar. Considering Treyarch was working from home, dealing with the pandemic, and also being short on time, I think it's quite impressive how all the modes turned out and how it feels like a much different game from previous installments in the Call of Duty franchise. But I want to say my opinion since the launch of Cold War has been they took a lot of what Modern Warfare established for this series and just did everything so much better when it comes to the way armor works in Fireteam as opposed to Warzone, when it comes to the parachuting, when it comes to, you know, the UI itself, when it comes to new features that Modern Warfare beautifully brought us. I just think Treyarch ironed everything out and polished those features so much better. Again, you could disagree with that, but it seems like Vanguard kind of took us a couple of steps back and just kind of brought us to what Modern Warfare had established in 2019. And the last thing I'll mention about this is that with every new Call of Duty, they should borrow what was established in a previous game that was successful, but then have that developer put their own spin on it. And in case that wasn't clear, I just think Treyarch put a good spin on things that did work in Modern Warfare, whereas with Vanguard, it's like you can kind of see it's really just Infinity War style with some sledgehammer paint on it, not really a creative spin on it that makes it feel unique to Vanguard. And come on, I mean, it took Modern Warfare nearly 5 seasons for you to be able to inspect your weapon, and we got that right away at launch in Black Ops Cold War, so to see that missing again at launch of Vanguard just makes me reminisce on the issues Modern Warfare had at launch a couple of years ago. But now at number 8, we have game mode variety right from the get-go. And look, I respect combat pacing in Vanguard. I think it definitely helps with, you guessed it, the pacing on some of the bigger maps, but there really aren't many modes in Vanguard at the moment, right? And again, it's just the launch period pre-season 1, so that's to be expected, but that'll of course change with the first season. We already know a lot of new modes are coming to the game. However, I'm personally a sucker for Fireteam over in Cold War, so I do think that mode was absolutely brilliant with bringing what works in Warzone over to the Cold War engine with a really cool objective apart from just killing people. I know not everybody liked Fireteam, and I completely respect that, but if you adapted well to the gunplay in that game, I think you find yourself having a bit more fun in that mode in comparison to Verdansk. Dirty Bomb is definitely best played with friends, and I can't really name many objective modes that are fun without friends, right? And I think a lot of people that hated on Fireteam never really played with a good group of people. They probably played solo or with randoms that had no idea what they were doing, so that probably stained their idea of what Fireteam Dirty Bomb is. But again, totally your opinion. If you tried the mode and didn't like it, I have to respect that. Now, we also had combined arms in Cold War, which I wasn't really a huge fan of. I played it whenever I could during the alpha and beta, a little bit at launch, and a little bit throughout the year too, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. I definitely preferred Fireteam. However, it added some spice to Cold War multiplayer if you ever got bored of 6v6. And I know Vanguard has Champion Hill, but there really isn't really that alternative like Fireteam or combined arms in the game yet. I think War would have been great to see at launch in Vanguard, but definitely ran out of time. I don't think Sledgehammer had time to polish a mode like that, especially one that's that in-depth. And don't forget, Cold War had vehicle support right at release as well. Maybe Blackout helped them prepare for that edition, but who doesn't love some vehicles in multiplayer? But coming in at number 7, we have just the multiplayer itself, the core foundation, and specifically even the TTK. I don't know about you guys, but I personally find it real interesting that Vanguard multiplayer has been really well received so far by a lot of the usual hardcores and content creators, even some casuals that, you know, tend to comment on Twitter or Reddit. But not many people are necessarily watching content with Vanguard multiplayer. Is it the gunplay? It seems like the amount of maps didn't really give interest a boost for the game itself, and it seems like a fair amount of people have agreed the multiplayer is trying really hard to be Modern Warfare 2019 just taking place during the Second World War, while seemingly having a TTK that almost resembles hardcore in my opinion. It's as if gun skill is less important than reaction time, which is what you experience in hardcore. Not to mention the ridiculous meta with dual-wield shotguns, STGs, MP40s, and I know those things will be ironed out in time, but Cold War multiplayer isn't perfect either. However, I certainly felt like the people who gave it a chance and truly played it could instantly agree that it was a lot more balanced at launch, and nothing really felt broken to where it pushed you away, you know, a week or two after the launch of the game. I'm also a huge fan of how Cold War multiplayer gives you a visual of what gun streak you're on, aside from the usual medals that come up every 5+ kills. And I think this point also emphasizes the division that exists in the multiplayer community. What I mean by that is that if somebody out there truly liked Modern Warfare 2019 multiplayer, and they got used to that over an entire year, there was a strong chance that they didn't like Cold War multiplayer. But if somebody out there wasn't really on board with Modern Warfare 2019, such as myself, they probably had a stronger chance of adapting well and enjoying Cold War multiplayer. So since Vanguard is roughly similar to Modern Warfare, there's a really strong possibility that if they like Modern Warfare, they'd like Vanguard. If they didn't like Modern Warfare, then they probably won't like Vanguard too much either. I'm kind of in the middle where, yeah, I didn't play Modern Warfare too much, wasn't my cup of tea. I really enjoyed Cold War, but with Vanguard, I'm kind of a bit iffy to where I'm giving it a chance and I'm trying everything, but I'm not enjoying it nearly as much as I did with the recent Call of Duty. Now this next one is a bit of a hot take, and that's dealing with the mastery camos. So in Cold War we had Dark Matter Ultra for multiplayer and Dark Aether for zombies, whereas in Vanguard we have Atomic in multiplayer and this new green looking Dark Aether in zombies. So let's be clear, right? I think mastery camos are cool and whatnot, but over the past couple of Call of Duty titles, it's like, alright, it's a bit of a repetitive grind people do every single year, and I also think it's silly to go for them right after the game comes out, considering a lot of challenges usually get nerfed for some of the weapons after, what, a couple of updates or two. And also, not to mention the fact that with Vanguard right now, a lot of the mastery camo updates are a bit bugged. I mean, there's some weapons that require you to get certain kills with attachments that don't exist for that gun, so there definitely wasn't much QA testing that went into mastery camo specifically for Vanguard. But in Cold War, I think the mastery camo grinding, at least at launch of the game, was okay. There were a few bugs here and there, but it still worked. And I definitely think the look of Dark Matter Ultra is unique compared to previous Dark Matter camos or previous mastery camos in Call of Duty multiplayer. But Atomic to me just feels like a bit of a different shade of Damascus from Modern Warfare, and coincidentally, Vanguard is on the Modern Warfare engine, so things are probably borrowed, things were given a fresh coat of paint, and Atomic is great, it's pretty, but I get a really big vibe of Damascus when I look at it. That's just me. But to add to this, when people have put Atomic and Dark Aether side by side within Vanguard, you will notice they actually are the same camo, or the same design at least, with a very simple color swap. So if the similarity between Damascus and Atomic wasn't enough for you, then you also have a bit of a copy paste between multiplayer and zombies. Also, before I forget to mention this, over in Exo Zombies, from Advanced Warfare that is, there was a green Pack-a-Punch camo for some of our weapons, and that also does resemble the Dark Aether camo in this game. It's not quite the same, but people out there have pointed that out quite a bit. Now, when it comes to zombies, I mean, my god, Dark Aether camo in Cold War Zombies was absolutely beautiful. I loved using it on all my weapons, or as many as I had it for, and I'm sure everybody out there could agree, it was one of the nicest looking mastery camos we ever gotten. And it's similar to the classic Dark Aether look from previous Black Ops multiplayers, you know, BO3, BO4, great. But you look at Dark Aether camo in Vanguard Zombies, and I'm like, unless I'm missing something here, there is no relevance to the color green in the current story. Right now, the main color is red, as it should be, whereas in Cold War, it's purple. So wouldn't, or shouldn't I should say, the mastery camo for zombies be red? And I think the best idea I've heard all day from a good colleague of mine, Fajardi, is that we should have gotten an ever-changing camo, a camo that maybe changes colors or changes looks each season to account for a possible change in power in the Dark Aether itself. You know, by the end of Vanguard's life cycle, power should shift over to the color purple when the Forsaken takes over, but right now, where does green come from? Now, coming in at number 5, it's a big one, Zombies and Dead Ops Arcade 3. So, in my opinion, gameplay on D Machina's level design is great, there's side Easter eggs, which I wasn't necessarily too fond of, but there's something. There's a great main Easter egg quest, not to mention the really cool wonder weapon, the Die Shockwave. We also have, yes, a Pack-a-Punch camo, a pause button, and our iconic perk machines. It's the start of a new chapter of the zombie story, which is impressive to see that they put it together so quickly. Definitely do not forget, though, about Dead Ops Arcade 3. Even if Dead Ops wasn't your cup of tea before in Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 3, I sincerely hope you tried it or plan on it in the future. There's just so much content in the mode itself, and this is, again, not including the DLC updates that it got, which they were great. There's so many secrets and all types of strategies that are a part of Dead Ops. You get the best of both Aether and Chaos within it as well, with different bosses from a lot of old Zombies maps, including ones from Black Ops 4. Truly remarkable, and I enjoyed making content for it. I really did. I don't even have to go into much detail about Vanguard Zombies because you guys already know what's up. I've made plenty of videos about it already here on the channel, and I think everybody who's knowledgeable about the COD cycle understands that Treyarch was in no way at fault or responsible for how lackluster Duran Fung released. I mean, they were working on a hell of a game, which was Black Ops 4, and then had to kind of cut that DLC season a bit short compared to what they planned to make COD 2020, picking up for Sledgehammer. And then right after the Forsaken DLC map comes out, DLC 4, all of a sudden they're, boom, marketing Vanguard Zombies, getting that mode off the ground. And you can clearly tell they didn't have nearly enough time to polish yet another new Zombies mode while they were still making sure that Cold War Zombies season and those DLC maps were also polished as well. There was just too much going on. We all know that. Now, we were used to a 3-month gap in the past between zombie maps, so I'm at the point where I'm like, look, I wouldn't have had an issue if they just saved Vanguard Zombies until Season 1 or later, so we could see a finished product, right? Forsaken isn't even 2 months old at the time of releasing this video, so I would have been totally on board with that, just waiting for Zombies to be finished. But then again, how would Activision have charged $60 or more for Vanguard altogether if there wasn't Zombies at launch? It seemed like it just needed something to be there to fill that slot. Now, I don't know about you guys, and remember, I'm not defending Vanguard Zombies, but I personally think it's poetic how the content people are asking for within Zombies now was already provided in games like Black Ops 4 and Cold War, but because those games are in Black Ops 3, it's just a quote-unquote bad game, right? They both are, according to a majority of people that you see on Twitter, you see on Reddit. That doesn't represent the majority of the actual Zombies community, but people out there, they're asking for more round-based maps, harder Easter egg quests. Where were they during Black Ops 4 when that was provided? To an extreme, right? A lot of content was provided in that game. People said it wasn't enough, right? People saying they want at least one round-based map, they want at least one wonder weapon, one main quest. Well, that clearly wasn't enough in D Machina either, because people still complained after the launch of Cold War. Now, coming in at number 4, this is a big one for me, the era, right? Cold War taking place during the 80s, to me was fantastic. Now, World War II is definitely a much more brutal and impactful moment in our history, but you can definitely see the Cold War era opens up the door to much more creativity and this real retro energy, which gives the game more life. Both World War II 2017 and Vanguard are grounded with a level of realism to where you can't really get too goofy goofy with things, and they have a lot more serious tones than Black Ops Cold War. And as a follow-up to what I said earlier, I think despite only having 2 other full-fledged World War II games before Vanguard, that's World at War and then World War II, people still really weren't on board with the direction of this new game. No amount of maps, weapons, modes, or updates can change the setting of Vanguard. They just can't. Treyarch's never really focused on realism to begin with, but they certainly didn't try to do that in Cold War either. The addition of the arcade in the campaign and the main menu really emphasizes the vibe Treyarch was going for. Sometimes it's about having fun in a game rather than worrying about making the game feel like a big QuickTime event or this AMC-like experience. We just gotta have some fun. I also think the game taking place during the Cold War and being a sequel to Black Ops 1 just opened up that realm of this brainwashing, CIA, mindfuckery, and just a level of fantasy that a game taking place in World War II really just can't have. I know Duran Fung kind of deals with that a little bit where, yeah, there is some fantasy going on. There are some cults and there is some weird dark magic, but in terms of a campaign and a multiplayer, you can't really see that for a game like Vanguard. Now here we have it, number 3, the element of choice. The alternate endings Cold War has in the campaign, which we haven't really seen much of other than what, a game like Black Ops 2 and a few other CODs here and there, but I think the Black Ops 2 approach of having alternate endings makes campaigns a lot more replayable, not to mention the ability to play or skip certain side missions, which definitely add more weight to the story, and to fill in some loose ends from the main line of events. The choices still keep that linear structure in line for the campaign, but with the ability to go off the rails a little bit, to dive deeper into the Black Ops universe, and not many COD titles gave us this amount of freedom. So it was a breath of fresh air to have this again in Cold War, whereas with Vanguard's campaign, it really does feel like World War II 2017 and even games before it, which are just straightforward, to the point. Even if there are flashbacks, it's not really an experience that offers much, is different from other Call of Duty titles. Now coming close to the end here at number 2, we have iconic characters. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like right off the bat with the ending of Cold War's campaign and then, you know, even people that played multiplayer, everybody could nearly agree that characters like Adler, like Park, and a few others were just instant fan favorites for the community. And this is not even including a bunch of other icons that got introduced over the course of the DLC season. People were just on board with these characters right away. And it was great to see the additions of Mason and Woods and whatnot, and they helped, you know, make Cold War feel like a direct sequel to Black Ops 1. But the fact that new characters that got introduced were just instant fan favorites just tells me that Treyarch has a great writing team. And I know Raven, you know, directed the campaign for Cold War, so I guess you could also thank Raven for this. But with a game like Vanguard, which is said to be a game in which they hope new iconic characters are introduced, I don't know, but I really do care about Polina. She had a great story and campaign. I think she's just a well-written person, but I mean, other characters like Kingsley, like Lucas, are you guys really on board with them as much as characters like Adler and Park, so to speak? I just don't think so. I don't see that really being discussed too much around the community, but that could of course change over the course of the DLC cycle. Now I also think the impact these characters left behind after Cold War's campaign was over has been amazing to see. I mean, people out there using icons like Adler as their profile picture on Twitter and Reddit, people repeating iconic quotes from the campaign all over the internet. I mean, I just don't see that with Vanguard. I don't feel like Vanguard really left an imprint on the COD community the way that Cold War did. But again, maybe I missed something about how Vanguard has really resonated well story-wise with the community, so feel free to challenge me down below in the comments. But last and definitely not least, coming to the end of this list at number 1, we just have a well-written story, a banger campaign, and just really fluent continuity. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like even after you finish the campaign and play some multiplayer in Vanguard, it's like, alright, you're still in World War II, you're not really too focused on whether or not this takes place after the campaign, whereas in Cold War, it's made clear to you that the multiplayer takes place after campaign. It's made clear to you which canon ending actually exists and which one wasn't canon, and I just think not only do the characters impact us the most in the community, right, with how well written they are, but Black Ops Cold War has memorable moments. I mean, with Vanguard, right, can you really name too many memorable moments that you're like, wow, that was great? With Cold War, I can think of quite a few. Call me biased, but I think the introduction of the Red Door and that level of mindfuckery will forever be remembered in the COD community. Whereas with Vanguard, what really was there that stuck out too much in comparison to World War II 2017? Now, maybe the fact that Cold War was a direct sequel to Black Ops 1 really helped the impact this game left behind, but all in all, I just think the game itself even opens up the opportunity opportunity for sequels to take place in between Cold War and Black Ops 2. I mean, the game just established so much that it opens up the realm of possibility for Treyarch to do even more in the Black Ops universe. Whereas with the ending of Vanguard, it's like, wait a second, you finish that campaign and you realize that every mission but 2 are flashbacks, so there really weren't too many stakes in the campaign either. And then you realize the final mission opens up the door to Project Nova, Project Aether, and you're like, okay, that's cool. It tied it into Black Ops. Is that going to be established in the DLC season or a Vanguard sequel? Only time will tell. But it's almost like the gameplay we see in the final mission of Vanguard, where you can switch between characters and, you know, have different characters do different things. Almost like having that selection wheel like Grand Theft Auto 5 has, where you can swap between characters. Imagine if we would have had that in every mission of Vanguard. It would have made the campaign very unique, but instead they spent the whole game just giving us flashbacks to the Second World War to make us care about these characters. I think I would have cared more about them if we got this Avengers-like experience every mission in Vanguard, where they're all working together using a different set of skills to get certain things done, and then that's how you really build characters for the community. That's how you make them iconic. That's how you make us care about them. But all in all, that's how I think Vanguard stacks up to a game like Cold War based on their states at launch. Once again, not comparing anything Cold War added to the game post-release, just talking about the experiences we had at launch right when you opened the game up for the very first time. But a lot of it was opinionated, so if you guys disagree with anything, just be respectful down below in the comments. There is no need to be hostile over opinions on goddamn video games. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your honest thoughts about Black Ops Cold War versus Vanguard? Be completely honest down below in the comments. And I get it, right? Both of these games have suffered from the pandemic, where devs are working at home, they're short on time, budget issues. I mean, there's a number of different problems that just wouldn't have existed if the pandemic never happened. So I get it. Both games suffered in a number of different ways, but it's all about looking at which game you really cared about the most when you first played it, and whether or not you instantly invested in the game to where you know you're gonna play it with every single DLC update. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.